this viral video, a man goes to Costco and compares the price of goods today to yesterday to figure out what the actual inflation is. Now, there's a lot wrong with this calculation. The inflation of some goods does not mean the overall inflation of all goods. However, there is some truth to be said here. The most important inflation may in fact be food costs. They say, oh, we'll include cars and everything else, and then we can get that number down or change it or whatever. But I don't think it's fair to say it's 75%. I also don't think it's fair to say 3.67. I believe they're right now saying that it's 3.7. 3.7% inflation is the official number. But according to TrueFlation, the actual number is around 24%. But I'll show you those charts. First, let's watch this video.
This man reveals the true food inflation by comparing prices with the price tags on photos he took a year ago.
So I'm walking around Costco here and I'm noticing these prices. For example, these madras lentils, $15.99. I bought those a year ago for $6.99. I keep getting told that we got, 6-7% inflation. You gotta be kidding me. Let's look at what else we got going on here. We literally bought this chicken broth, $5.69, 2 months ago.
Mayonnaise, $10 from $5.
Dang, this is the flour we were buying for $5.99 last year.
$6, and it's now $13.
The government
Butter.
has its own math that they manipulate in a dodgy way. This man reveals the truth.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Because they want to prevent panic, I guess. They want to control how you think about money and what you think you have. NerdWallet says the current inflation rate is 3.7. Here's why it matters. Inflation increased 3.7% in September 2023 from a year ago. Understanding what inflation is and why it matters, how to handle, blah, 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 blah. Okay. How to measure inflation. Sure. Here we go. The current U.S. inflation rate is 3.7 for the 12-month period leading up to September 2023. Inflation rose 0.4% in September, but the previous month, according to the latest revenue from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the BLS noted that the shelter and gasoline indices were two of the largest contributors to the monthly uptick in September. The shelter index, which primarily measures rent prices as well as owner's equivalent rent, an estimate of what a homeowner would pay if they were renting their home, accounted for more than half of the monthly increase. The next monthly update will be released November 14th, 2023. What is inflation? It's the rate at which the price of goods and services increases. As a result of inflation, the purchasing power or value of money decreases over time. Inflation affects the prices of everything around us. Generally speaking, inflation can be caused by a number of factors. The recent surge in inflation has been driven, at least in part, by supply chain issues, pent-up consumer demand, and economic stimulus from the pandemic. Types of inflation. Blah, 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 blah. I read that very fast because you get the point. The most important thing here is how they measure inflation. But let me show you TrueFlation. According to TrueFlation.com, the U.S. inflation rate aggregated since 2020 is 23.9%. Wow. That's crazy. And over the past year, you can see, it's not going to load for me. Over the past 2 years, it's been going up quite a bit. So when you see a video of a guy saying, look at this, the flour's up $5, the mayonnaise is double in price, the lentils are 3 times more expensive, he's getting something right. What's not right is you can't look at one product and be like, why is it more expensive? Okay, well, let's talk about lentils. Maybe lentils were $5 because there was an overproduction of the crop. Many of the producers were then saddled with massive inventories and they needed to get rid of it or lose money. So they sold at a slight loss, but they make enough. Let's say it's expensive today because there was to be completely honest, it was very warm over the winter. So we should have had a better crop. We had a warm winter. So you'd think there'd be more, which the price would go down. But it could be that lentils are in short supply. Why did mayonnaise go up? The cost of eggs, the cost of lemon juice or vinegar or whatever it is. These things all play a role. And it may just be that the reason that lentils are more expensive is because the main producer of lentils, the owner had a heart attack and then the company went, it could be anything, right? But I think the reality is that inflation is a serious problem right now. As I mentioned earlier this week, banks are closing their branches, costs are going up, and we are witnessing it. Rent is nuts right now. I'm going to tell you, my friends, we have to face a challenge here at Timcast as a somewhat atypical business. Now, I often talk about how I get paid, and I got no problem saying this. The Tim Pool Daily Show podcast, which is produced, hosted, and run entirely by me. Granted, the clips, shout out, the shorts and the clips that get put up are by the team. I'm saying, I come in, I sit down, I press record, I upload all this. This makes the money. The clips don't make money. All the money made from the show, I pay myself with. I'm happy with that. It's a good amount of money. Things are getting more expensive. As for Timcast IRL and our memberships, $10 a month gets you a membership. You can watch the behind the scenes content, join the Discord server, hang out with like-minded individuals, all that really good stuff. You get special benefits. The elite members, you get inside access and knowledge and, talk to staff and things like that. We don't have that many elite members. It's kind of just like we wanted to create a tier for people who want to be more involved. And most people are content with the $10 a month. But the cost of running the servers is going up. People who work here need raises to cover the increased cost of food and rent. And so we have to figure out, how do you make more money come into a business when it's $10? Obvious. We have to raise prices. Well, we're not planning on doing that just yet. We got to figure out other means of making money and perhaps maximizing the business without increasing costs, because the fear is if we raise membership costs, we might just lose money because people might cancel. And there's the idea where it's like, okay, well, everybody who's paying at this rate stays at this rate, and then all new memberships go up. Okay, perhaps. But what if that decreases the rate at which we sign up new members? And so there's a natural churn and burn. Every month we lose X and then we gain Y. Sometimes we lose more than we gain. Sometimes we gain more than we lose. We're in a slight uptick. It's good. But the slight uptick does not beat inflation, which means we have to contend with the very real prospect of, at some point, having no choice but to raise rates or add advertisements, which we rarely do. The point is, it gets tough. One of the reasons we launched Cast Brew Coffee, go to castbrew.com and buy the best cup of coffee, is to create another means of monetization. The reason why we're launching a coffee shop is not just to win the culture war, primarily is, but it's because we want to create brick and mortar franchises that can just operate in the real world in the event this becomes unsustainable. This is a big challenge. Over time, everyone needs more money. With inflation actually around 24%, according to TrueFlation, I don't know how we maintain this. We try. We're doing well, but we're floating by. Timcast is doing well, but we are where we are. And at this point, we're hoping that our other projects, we're launching Freedomistan, which is the skate vlog style show, which is basically just bringing back the vlog. Cast Castle breaks even. We have enough members who sign up for Cast Castle that enjoy the show that it works out and maintains itself. Pop Culture Crisis, they're getting there, but they're making money, and that's good. We need to get to the point where these other components of the business make money, and then we can start, dealing with inflation in better ways. But this is the big challenge faced by everybody. If you're a business that just sells cheese, you got to charge more for the cheese, or hope that you can sell so much more that the increased sales covers the cost of inflation. Meaning, you need to increase your sales by 10% to compete with inflation at this level, right? Let's say you sell 10 blocks of cheese and your profit on those 10 blocks of cheese is $10. Now you, the owner, take that $10 to pay yourself. Maybe you're getting a salary. So the $10 is on top. But then someone comes and says, I need a wage increase. And you have 10 employees who each need another $1 every pay period. And you're only making $10. Okay, well, that means you as the owner lost all your profits. Your pay goes down to cover the cost of raising the wages of your employees who are only now getting an extra $1. Not even that much. $10 lost, $1 gain per person, but you got to do it. So you say, okay, what if we reduce the price of the cheese and sell 100 now because it's cheaper? Well, let's say now you're only getting $8 per 10, but you're selling 10 times as much. So now you're getting $80. Now you keep paying yourself the 10. Now, you see? So this is the challenge with business. And right now, I think the bigger challenge is that outside of running a business, all that stuff, the reality for most people is that the government is lying about the true cost of goods. Banks are closing. Prices are skyrocketing. Stores are closing. Crime is running rampant. I see this and I think it's well beyond just an issue of whether or not you can afford to buy a can of beans. It's going to be an issue of whether or not there's going to be people lined up outside the unemployment office or outside of food banks. And I think that's where we may be going. We see this homelessness crisis, and people don't think a lot about these homeless people. But you ever ask yourself, where did they all come from? It's not that one day a bunch of people just their brains shattered and they became mentally unwell. Many of these people had jobs. They were probably working as a clerk at a CVS. CVS closed because of high crime. They were probably working at a Rite Aid. Rite Aid closed because they're getting sued over opioid crisis. How many of these people were living paycheck to paycheck, making $10, $15 an hour? Their store closed, their Target, their Walgreens, whatever. And now they're part of the homeless crisis, forgotten. And how many more will join those ranks? I hope you all are paying attention and planning for self-sustainability. That's why I say get out of the cities. Why? Well, one of the things about being outside the cities, you can grow your own food. Depending on where you are. You can grow food in the city, I get it, but you're not growing enough. We had a garden here and chickens. And this, I got to tell you, man, breakfast covered. No joke. It's kind of awesome. We had cherry tomatoes, we had zucchinis. In the morning, I'd walk out, grab a zucchini, grab a handful of cherry tomatoes, go grab some eggs from the chickens, and that's what I'd eat for breakfast. And it was awesome. And that was mostly it. You need a lot of food. It is crazy. People do not understand how much farmland you need per person. It's nuts. I think the average farm feeds like 12 to 20 people. That's it. It's like some low number. Maybe it's not. I think it's aggregate because like there's a lot of wheat. But all that wheat is not a single staple, right? I should say it's like not the only thing you can eat. So when you combine all these farms, they only feed like a couple dozen people. Or is it a couple of dozen families? I don't know. It's not as much as you might think. But I hope you're paying attention to this stuff. Because if costs keep going up, I don't know, man. Maybe Trump will come in and turn it all around. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.